Read the disclaimer. Doofus. And please contact us through this email address with questions or fan art. Thank you for your support.
Okay guys, hope you're ready for me to start channeling perspective in because I've got some beef with the subject of today's review. Salutations, denizens of the internet. I'm Firebite27, and let us commence our analysis of Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom Core Class Optimus Prime.
This vehicle mode is underwhelming and boring. Not to mention ugly and derpy because
This is a
poorly proportioned vehicle mode.
dear God. There's more. No.
Core Class Optimus is basically a downscaled version of the Earthrise Optimus Prime mold. Not entirely a downscale, but close enough that they do share some flaws. First, the good. The paint is great, and that's literally the only thing I like about this truck mode. Because as a truck, this is even messier than my desk is, and that's saying something. It lacks a great deal of cohesion, and I think that cohesion might have been sacrificed for the sake of the robot mode, but oh boy, this is a mess. The subject of alt mode cohesion is actually kind of funny when you think about it, because there are some figures with alternate modes like Front, which lack a great deal of cohesion, and still look fantastic despite lacking that element. And then there are figures like MP45 that have totally cohesive alternate modes that look like complete crap. From most of the sides, Core Class Optimus Prime is acceptably cohesive, but as soon as you start moving back to the legs, or what will be the legs, we've got the feet poking out and interrupting this cohesion. Then from the back it becomes a big gappy mess of empty space, where you can slap on the Ion Blaster for some reason. This doesn't help the cohesion at all, it just makes it look worse somehow.
And heck, even with all the crap that I gave Earthrise RC, at least her alternate mode was somewhat cohesive compared to this. And if you've seen my review of this figure, you know that I am not happy if I am complimenting it.
And from the front, well, I'd compare this to a certain character from the Fairly OddParents, but quite frankly, any references to that show are not worth this channel's time. But something that is far more worth the time of this channel and its audience is the size comparisons. So let's quickly move on to comparing Core Class Optimus Prime next to last week's review, Studio Series 86 Grimlock. The last Optimus Prime I reviewed on this channel revealed the S.H.I.E.L.D. Laser Optimus Prime. The first Optimus Prime I reviewed on this channel,
We are not the Decepticons.
the worst voice-acted version of Optimus Prime ever, the corpse of Optimus Prime, the box set version of the Titans Return Triple Changer Optimus Prime, Classics Optimus Prime, and say it with me, a standard Qtama, a standard can of sparkling water, and a fraud side. So overall, this figure isn't nearly as bad as I'm probably making it out to be. But god, it's boring. And the only thing that's worse than being a bad figure, in my opinion, is being an extremely boring figure. So let's just avoid beating around the bush and get this figure transformed. Nah, that's too cliche. We can do better than that. I've got something more appropriate in mind.
Fuck this shit, I'm out. Fuck this shit, I'm out. No thanks. Don't mind me. I'ma just grab my stuff and leave. Excuse me, please. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Nope.
And now we have the best... No, that's too much praise for it. The least flawed aspect of this figure. The design of its robot mode. All of the sacrifices that they made in truck mode start making more sense and seem less nonsensical. From the front of the robot mode, everything looks clean and pristine aesthetically. We've got nice clear paint applications in light blue and silver, but from the back, oh dear God. As stated earlier, this figure has a lot of flaws that were inherited from the Earthrise mold. Specifically, the flap that contained the 2 front wheels that was mounted to the butt. And apart from that, there's just nothing for me to talk about. It's just so basic. And I think that's the bottom line, really. If this is your favorite toy of Optimus Prime ever, then clearly your type is the basic bitch, because that is literally the only term I can think to describe it. Like, the gun he comes with is alright, but it can't fully peg into his hand because of this weird lip above the actual wrist. Not to mention it actually looks more proportionate in the hands of a bigger figure. Not to mention that he's covered in all these various notches and slots and tabs that clearly don't go anywhere and don't serve any purpose in any of its current modes. But they could serve purposes in modes that are further off down the line, like with the quote-unquote Titan class arc that we're supposedly getting. Though considering that we haven't heard any other news on that figure, I'm starting to get curious as to whether or not it's actually been cancelled. And honestly, I wouldn't mind if it was. Or if you're like me, you've just made the assumption that these were all just cutouts to save on plastic, so that could be the case too. And his articulation, well, that just ain't helping either. Maya, would you please just talk about it while I go get a coffee or something?
The head rotates, the shoulders are on butterfly joints, with ball joints for rotation and T-posing, the elbows are ball joints, the hips have a crunch, and are also ball jointed, and the knees are ball jointed.
So yeah, just some perfectly mediocre articulation. And that's just my feelings towards this figure overall. It's just mediocre. And like I said earlier, the only thing that I find worse than a bad Transformer is a figure like this that's boring. Because that means I can't really form an opinion on it that would be interesting and entertaining to talk about in a review. And that just makes it frustrating. And my frustration, I mean, it probably makes the review more entertaining, sure, but God, you're getting off track, right? Just calm down here. Anyways, let's do the size comparisons. Here's a Kingdom Optimus Prime next to Grimlock, which you could actually use to recreate some of the scenes from Age of Extinction in a G1 format. Then we have him next to Reveal the Shield Laser Optimus Prime, then next to Siege Optimus Prime, then Titan's Return Optimus Prime, then Classics Optimus Prime, Standard Kutama, Standard Can of Sparkling Water, and Frontside.
If the term basic bitch could ever be applied to an action figure, this would be it. It is the most basic bitch of all Optimus Prime figures, and probably will be for a while, all things considered. It's not good, the transformation, while simple, isn't very enjoyable, and overall, there are just better figures out there. Heck, you could even go with a pretty good reissue of the Earthrise figure, which is way better than this, and I don't really like that figure. Just don't buy this figure. It sucks. Just skip out on it. Save your money. Get something else. Having said that, it's not completely terrible. It's just skippable. So I'm gonna give it a 1 out of 10 just because it's okay. It exists. But I really should have saved my money and waited to get Rat Trap when he was available on Amazon. And with that being said, this is Firebite 27 over and out.